All right, good evening, Council. It is 7:03. I call the meeting to order. We begin tonight's meeting with the acknowledgement that the land that we are gathered is in the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, specifically Mississauga. We would also like to acknowledge the North Channel Métis Council. We say miigwech to thank Indigenous peoples for taking care of this land from time immemorial. We are called to treat this sacred land, its plants, animals, stories, and its people with honor and respect. Prior to beginning this evening's agenda, I would ask each councillor who is present via this video conferencing to answer the roll call when I call your name. Deputy Mayor Paula Summers.
Present.
And Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar.
Present.
Councillor Jim Dunbar.
Present.
Councillor Stephen Wells.
Present.
And we have regrets from Councillor Roy, Councillor Jennifer Postorero.
Oh, I thought you were saying regrets. I'm here. I'm present.
Thank you. So if our councillors weren't at tonight's meeting, I know that they would most likely be attending the playoff game between our Blind River Beavers and the Elliott Lake Red Wings. We wish our boys well in the playoff series, and we are sending positive vibes to the Beavers hockey team. And if you're thinking of running for council, there's an excellent free training session being offered via Zoom this Saturday, April 9th. To register, please contact Deputy Clerk Pam Walsh at 356-2251, extension 210. And the deadline for registrations is April 7th. And for all our business owners who are planning to make improvements to their business, look up our Community Improvement Plan guidelines. An application is on the Town of Blind River website. It could be an opportunity not only to upgrade your facility, but it could also give you the eligibility for a CIP grant. So we know April is Earth Awareness Month, and it's a reminder that we need to be mindful to unplug our appliances when not in use, reduce food waste, use recyclable bags when you're out, use your bike instead of your car, or walk around the beautiful community which we have. And if you can, pitch in by picking up the litter that is showing up now that the snow is gone. There are a lot more announcements which can be found on the Town of Blind River Facebook page, or by subscribing to the Town of Blind River weekly newspaper, and that's info@blindriver.ca. And last but certainly not least, again, we continue to pray for everyone in Ukraine and hope that this war will end quickly. Now, without further ado, turning to tonight's agenda, I have a motion from Jennifer Postorero, seconded by Stephen Wells. Be it resolved that council adopt the minutes or the agenda for tonight's meeting, the closed meeting agenda as presented. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And are there any declarations of conflict of interest? The Councillor Postorero?
I just remember from the training that we're supposed to remind that last week I did have a declaration of conflict of interest on the deeming bylaw 22-25. So just for the minutes to reflect that, I'm reminding of that last meeting's conflict.
Duly noted. Thank you. And are there any conflicts of interest for tonight's meeting? Seeing no hands going up, I will assume that it is a no. Thank you. I do have a motion from Councillor Jim Dunbar, and I'm going to change my seconder to Deputy Mayor Paula Summers. Be it resolved that council adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of March 21st, 2022 as presented. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. And aside from Councillor Postorero's request, is there anything else business arising from the previous meeting minutes? And seeing none, we have no public presentations tonight. So we'll move on to agenda item 9.1 from administration, ongoing projects update. Does council have any questions that they wish to ask on any of these projects to Ms. Scott? And again, seeing no hands going up, we will move on to 9.2. Sorry? Jennifer, do you have a question? Sorry, I'm too quick.
Yeah, I was just going to say, sorry, Mayor Hagman, I'm slow on the draw. I was just wondering how the Travel Information Center is going and if there's any new work that's moving forward.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to you, Councillor Pastorero. Yes, it is moving forward. We were backlogged in the window delivery. So that's delaying the project. They should have been on site the second last week of March, but due to the delay, they're backlogged until April, the next week. So we hope to have them on site next week. We are still anxious to have the travel center open for the beginning of May to mid-May.
Are there any other questions from council on the ongoing projects update? And seeing none, moving on to the town generator, there's a number of emails that I see from Councillor Jim Dunbar to our CAO clerk. And Ms. Scott, I'll give you the floor.
Through you, Madam Mayor, this was requested to be on the agenda from Councillor Dunbar at our last meeting. I've placed it on here for council's information as per the request of Mr. Dunbar.
And I thank you for that. Are there any questions from council? Seeing none. Moving on to 9.3 related to our public meeting at 880 Poline Road. And we had a number of comments from our public meeting that council has been digesting, as well as letters of support and letters of opposition, and our technical report from Kevin Jarvis. I have a motion. The first motion on the floor to be discussed is moved by Deputy Mayor Summers, seconded by Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar. Be it resolved that council grant provisional consent for the property owner located at 940 Poline Road to sever a parcel of land with an approximate frontage of 200 feet on Red Lake, approximate depth of 450 feet, and approximate area of 2.5 acres for a lot addition to the subject property located at 880 Poline Road. Discussion. Deputy Mayor Summers.
Mayor Hagman, I believe that we had discussed that we would want to defer this application until we get a little bit more information. I believe that was what council was wanting to do. So we would do the second resolution.
And is council in agreement to move to the second resolution?
Mhm.
On the second resolution, it reads, moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Jim Dunbar. Be it resolved that council defer the application for provisional consent to sever the land with the approximate footage of 200 feet on Red Lake, approximate depth of 450 feet, and approximate area of 2.5 acres for lot addition to the subject property located at 880 Poline Road until May 2nd, 2022 regular meeting of council, and that the municipal planner provide a comprehensive report on the proposed application, and that the municipal solicitor provide an opinion with regard to Road Access Act general parameters for council's review at the May 2nd, 2022 regular meeting. And this is open to the floor. As council, any remarks on this motion? Councillor Wells, followed by Councillor Pastorero, followed by Councillor.
Well, thank you, Mayor Hagman. I'm just wondering, and I will reveal my ignorance of procedure here, but should we have two motions before us? I'm wondering if we should vote on the first motion, and if we choose to defeat that motion, and then move on to the second motion, which is the deferral to May 2nd. And just a note, Councillor Jay Dunbar had moved that motion, but I'm willing to second that one.
On the second motion you're talking about?
Yes, yes.
All right, we can change that for you. Duly noted. I wanted to bring council's attention to both resolutions prior to voting so that we could have a discussion, and then we will absolutely vote on both. The first resolution will be brought forward first, followed by discussion on the second resolution. So on the first resolution, the opinion I'm seeing from nodding heads, and I would prefer to have hands being raised. If council wishes to defer the motion, the first motion being brought to the floor, would you raise your hands now, please? And that is recognized as a deferred motion. On the second motion, which I've just read, is open for discussion of the floor. Moved by Councillor Wells, that's changed to, moved by Councillor Jay Dunbar, seconded by Councillor Wells. And Councillor Pastorero, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam. With that second motion, I was wondering if we could get explicit entry of in that municipal planner, the comprehensive report, to include an M&R, either approval or declining it, right? So if they're not willing to produce the M&R, doesn't want to produce a response, at least have a confirmation that it is not in contravention of their laws over the land. But yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable passing this without M&R backing this up, ensuring that it is not in contravention of any of their laws.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Jim Dunbar?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, and I'd like to follow up with the ministry there too. I noticed there's a sign that's posted out there on High Road, Poline Road. There's a nice metal sign, Poline Road. I don't know if it was ours or if that was put up by the community out there on the end of the peninsula. But when I see that, and it says private, I'd like to know what the ministry, here we are acknowledging this road, this unregistered access road. Though, do we have 911 numbers out there on all those lots? Are we providing ambulance pickup to those lots, to those people out there on those lots? That would be a question I would want to know. How did we get there? And I believe what a true Councillor Kearns has said, like, I can't believe that this official plan with the planning, that something like this escaped us, because this looks very, very bad on us. I see some bad planning there personally, and that's a personal note. I'm not saying it's terrible, but it's not. I think we're going to have to do some investigating on how we go forward here, or at least look over our official plan at some of these unregistered roads that we have in this town, especially where there's like, if you were asking me, it looked like a subdivision that was planned around Red Lake. And yet, we have roads up there, access roads that were punched in on Crown land, then onto private land. Like, it's like we haven't had enough eyes or boots on the ground down in that area. So I just would like to see some more information here, and that legal, especially the legal information, might be very important for us here on council, because if everyone's looked at the lot, the way the lot goes up and then crosses over, I'd be more than happy. This would have been cut and dry if it was just a rectangular lot we were talking about, but it wasn't. And I'm not making any allegations, but we do have other people. We have to take in everyone's concerns before we make this here decision.
Thank you, Councillor Dunbar. I just wanted to clarify that I drove down the Poline Road subdivision yesterday, and there are 911 numbers on the road. So to answer your question. Deputy Mayor Summers, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say that as well, that reading one of the letters, there was a comment that there were 911 postings on all the lots. My concern too is the fact that, you know, the roadway going to all these lots, and the fact that you do come in off of High Road onto Crown Land, as when you go onto that part of the road where it says a private road. I have a bit of a concern, but I would like to get a little bit more information as well.
Councillor Pastorero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just with the right of road access, like it has been voiced that by the applicant that there's no intentions. And even if a gate was erected legally, they'd have no feet to stand on because there's been right of access to all of those properties. But my concern is that if there ever was a squabble and a gate was erected, and although legally it ultimately would determine that they do have right of access, when we're talking about good planning, it may not, I'm just concerned that good planning is not thinking about all the potential litigation that those residents will have to go through to resolve that matter. And not to say that it's going to happen, but when you have so many residents that are concerned about that their right of way, and I understand that the applicant has stated on recorded testimony that he has no intent to do that. But I just wouldn't want to see a mess of litigation, civil litigation, if there ever was a squabble between neighbors. And just in that comprehensive report, just also to make sure that it's explicit that that could never happen because the right of access has been there for so many years. So other than the M&R confirmation or denial, I would hope that it would be explicitly stated in there that road access would never be an issue if we're considering this lot addition.
And thank you for that comment. See that we've temporarily lost Councillor Wells. Going back to the motion, I understand from council's comments that we will have the additional time to go forward with requests as recommended. And I would like to ask council at this time for a vote on deferring this motion.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Wells is back. He may have some input that he might want to relate.
Councillor Wells, we lost you for a while there. Is there anything else is there
Thank you.
anything you'd like to add?
Something happened. I could hear you, but I didn't realize you couldn't see me. Yes, Mayor Hagman, as I would want to do, I would like to call for a recorded vote on this motion, please.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
And the vote is to defer the application until May 2nd, 2022. And I would ask Ms. Scott to call our names.
Deputy Mayor Summers, how do you vote?
In favor.
Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar,
In favor.
Councillor Jim Dunbar,
In favor.
Councillor Stephen Wells,
In favor.
Councillor Jennifer Pastorero,
In favor of deferral.
Mayor Hagman,
In favor of deferral.
and that motion is carried and the resolution will be brought back to the table on May 2nd with information.
Thank you, Council, for that. Moving on to 9.4, we have information on the municipal modernization funding. Does Council have anything that they wish to ask Ms. Scott on this working between municipalities to work with the modernization fund itself? And seeing no one's hands going up, then we will move on to 9.5 from our treasurer. We have a motion, and again, I am changing, moved by Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar, seconded by Councillor Pastorero. Be it resolved that council defer the library window replacement project and that 10,500 of the tax levy funding be transferred to the facilities reserve earmarked for library windows until such time as sufficient funding can be secured for this project. Does council have any questions on this motion? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. As you may or may not know, the issue of the library windows has been ongoing for some time. And we have reached an understanding at one point that the library windows would be replaced in conjunction with the library using some of its reserve funds. And I would like to thank our treasurer, Sue Dent, for attending the special meeting of the library, which was held, I think, 2 weeks ago. After our treasurer left, the library board passed a resolution to contribute $5,000 toward the window replacement, which the original plan was that the library was to contribute $17,500 to match the contribution of the town. Now, this resolution, just have to go back to it. This resolution is for a deferral of the replacement project until such time as we can find sufficient funding for the project. And my fear is that we do have a contractor on site who is willing, our CEO clerk will correct me if I'm wrong, willing to complete the window project at the library too. My concern is that we are losing time in terms of the work season and that things keep going back and forth. And I know the library board would like to replace 2 of the damaged windows, and I think some other windows, perhaps have some windows open and so on. So without becoming too long-winded here, I would like to suggest that we defer this motion until the next council meeting. The next library board meeting will be on April the 13th, which is before the next council meeting. And that Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar and I, who serve on the library board, can go back to the library board to explain that we do have a motion on the table here that we have deferred, and to get further feedback from the library board as to whether they would like to reconsider the situation or for council to go ahead with this deferred motion at our next meeting on, I think it's April the Tuesday after Easter anyway. So that would be my recommendation, that we defer this to allow Councillor Dunbar and me some time to communicate with the library board. I think that the wording of this motion right now may blindside the board somewhat, because I don't think they're anticipating this decision to sideline the funds for perhaps the rest of this year. So those are my comments on that. Mayor Hagman, thank you.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar?
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. I just want to say that I agree with Councillor Wells that this may come as a surprise to the board, and if we had the opportunity to go back to the library board and speak to them about this matter before we vote on it, it would be very helpful.
Thank you for that. Councillor Jennifer Posterello?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now with this motion, even if it's deferred or not, would that preclude us fixing the 2 broken windows? Because I would hope that if there's any windows that are broken, that we would be able to at least replace those 2. And I understand that the reason that we were going to put it off is because there was a change in request for the window type that the library had wanted, and they were quite substantially more expensive. And also the supply chain is causing great delays, and so that's the reason for the deferral. But is there a way that we could ensure that the 2 broken windows were replaced and then deferred the rest of them until such time as the library has decided what type of windows, and we can ensure that there is the supply chain to get all of the windows there?
I will direct your question to our CAO clerk, Ms. Scott.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. To you, Councillor Prospero, on that question, I guess I would ask council, is that how you want to do it? Do you want to piecemeal the job, or should we be doing the job and tendering it all together and having the same windows for the entire facility? That was what we had spec'd out, and that is what we had the contractor set up to do. So my recommendation would be to do all of the windows at the same time. There's going to be some substantial work that could come out of this as well. But that would be up to council, and then we would have to also find the funds within the budget somewhere, because we haven't budgeted for that extra cost.
Councillor Pastorero.
Thank you. Quick follow-up question then. So the windows that were discussed in the report that were damaged, they're not damaged as sufficiently to cause liability concerns or monetary loss due to their ineffectiveness? Because I don't want to piecemeal it. I would love to have it done all in one shot and to ensure that the supply chain is there to ensure that all the windows are there. But if we have damaged windows that would cause any liability concerns or loss of revenue due to their ineffectiveness, I would want those replaced.
Through you, Mayor Hagman, upon my review of the windows and upon the engineer's review of the windows, they aren't in that severe damage that they couldn't wait. They aren't, there's not broken glass. There isn't that. It's not going to cause an issue if we hold off for another year to be able to do the job properly by having all of the same windows under the same contract.
Councillor Jim Dunbar.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. Yeah, I think we maybe once the library board has had their meeting and we're all enlightened afterwards of that meeting, I think then, we'd have a better handle on a decision moving forward, whether we're going to fix one window or not. But I mean, moving forward to deferring this year, I think we can talk about whether a window would need to be replaced once we have to make a final decision on this.
So what I'm hearing council saying, I've just reworded the motion to say, be it resolved that council defer the decision on the library window replacement project until April 19th council meeting. Everyone okay with that? And then that will give Councillor Wells and Councillor Dunbar a chance to talk to the board members and enlighten them on what we know to date. Okay? All in favor of this motion? And that's carried, and you'll notice that Ms. Walsh will be changing that as we move along. Thank you. And going on to 10.1, our service delivery review update has been provided for us again. Does council have any questions on the updates as they are seen in the report? Seeing none, we'll move on. Corporate Services had a meeting on March 28th, 2022, chaired by Deputy Mayor Paula Summers. First motion to the floor is the disconnecting from work policy. Council had a chance to read the report on the policy as well as the recommendations. Are there any questions on this policy? Councillor Pastorero?
I'm just wondering if this policy is it necessary to have this in a municipal policy book, because it is a provincial law that was just passed, disconnecting from work. So do we need to have this policy placed in our municipal policies as well, saying it's covered under the provincial law? And I understand it's only for town employees, that right to disconnect, which we all do have that right. I'm just like, it is explicitly in there though, that if it is an emergency and stuff that they should answer. But I'm just wondering, do we need this policy in the municipal books because it is a provincial law?
And you asked the same question that we asked at our meeting, but I'll let Ms. Scott respond.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. So each year, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing does contact my office and goes through the list of policies that are required under the legislation to have and that each municipality must have. And this is one of them. So to answer your question, yes, we are required to have this policy. And there will be, I believe, 2 or 3 other policies that will be coming to the next council meeting following corporate services of policies that we haven't passed. We actually did bring a couple forward in 2019 prior to the pandemic, and then they did slip off. So they're back on our radar to be back in front of council. So yes, Councillor Pastorero, this does have to be in our policy book.
Councillor Pastorero?
Thank you. Sorry, just one quick question. So how does this impact on-call workers? Because it only specifies in here that it's for their regular working hours. So how does this pertain to on-call workers?
So through you, Mayor Hagman, our on-call workers are scheduled, and there is a schedule for that. So we have specific policies also within our union agreement that would cover off on the on-call. So those are there for that purpose. This is more for our day-to-day management level as well. And this, as you know, is implemented by the province, and we're following the legislative requirements along with our current CUPE union agreement.
Thank you for that. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Deputy Mayor Summers. Be it resolved that council adopt the disconnecting from work policy as recommended by the Corporate Services Committee. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. And the next one from our Corporate Services meeting was the customer service policy. Does council have any questions on this policy? Seeing none, I have a motion from Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar, seconded by Councillor Jim Dunbar. Be it resolved that council adopt the corporate customer service standards as recommended by the Corporate Services Committee. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. And the next one that came forward was the use of corporate resources for election purposes. Are there any questions, comments on this report? Seeing none, I have a motion from Councillor Jim Dunbar, seconded by Councillor B. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council adopt the use of corporate resources for election purposes as recommended by the Corporate Services Committee. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And on the amendment to the building bylaw 16-40 report going forward, does council have any questions on the report? Councillor Pastorero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had a question. So in the motion, when it's talking about that we're granting the clerk the authority to deviate from the bylaw, should we stipulate an end point so that it's not in perpetuity, that it's extended? Like, because I know usually you have maximum 2 years, for example. So should we put like an end date where then at that point in time we'd revisit it to see if another extension was merited?
Through you, Mayor Hagman, we did discuss this at Corporate Services as well, and Corporate Services directed that I bring it back in a year's time, and it would be reviewed at that time or sooner should we see supply chains start to flow better within the community and within the province of Ontario.
Councillor Pastorero.
Thank you. So could the motion be amended to reflect that? So after where it says the property owners, so of up to 1 year?
We can change that. This is why I'm not reading them first. Give you an opportunity. Councillor Jim Dunbar.
Yeah, just to make this crystal clear for me, this is 1 year and then it comes back to be reviewed if an extension is required. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I will read the motion. Moved by Deputy Mayor Summers, seconded by Councillor B. Dunbar, whereas bylaw 16-40 states that all building permits must be completed within a year of the permit being approved. And whereas COVID-19 global pandemic created a number of challenges for residents, these included supply chain delays and contractor availability. And whereas council does not wish to cause further delays in the completion of these projects for the residents of Blind River, Therefore, be it resolved that council grant the clerk the authority to deviate from bylaw 16-40 to permit an extension to the property owner of up to 1 year if they can provide proof that the delay is due to supply chain shortages, and that bylaw 16-40 be amended to remove the reference of personnel and that they be replaced with position titles as recommended by the Corporate Services Committee. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. On the amendment of the building bylaw 16-40, I have a motion before me, but before bringing it to council, are there any comments, questions? Seeing none, as I'm madly writing. This motion is moved by Deputy Mayor Summers as well, seconded by Councillor B. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council authorize Schedule C of the 2022 municipal user fee bylaw be amended to allow for estimated consumption to be calculated and added to a bill in the event that a read cannot be obtained, and that a flat rate for refusal to allow access to a water meter be added in the amount of $200 per quarter as recommended by the Corporate Services Committee. Questions, comments? Seeing none. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And again, I'm just ensuring that I've got everyone's name on the motion itself.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question on that?
You sure can. I didn't have a chance to put everyone's names on the motions because of the public meeting, but go ahead, Councillor Dunbar.
Thank you. Just, out of curiosity, I mean, this year, $200, some people like to go away and summer it, while we're having winter up here for 6 months, some places. And maybe due to a fact, would there be room, for a little maneuver here that, $200 because they can't get in to read a meter, though there's no one maybe, in the house. So now we tack on a $200 flat rate to them? I'm just.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Ms. Dent to respond to your question.
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So yes, we would have to look at the specific circumstances for each property. It's where we know for sure that there are people there, they're using the water, and they are refusing us access to repair the meter. That's really what we're looking at here. Hopefully that won't happen very often anymore now that we are using a contractor to do our meter repairs. We do have someone available after hours and on weekends to do that work. So hopefully we can get better at scheduling, but it's where no matter what we do, they will not allow us access. Those are the ones that we're trying to deal with here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Ms. Dent. It's so much easier when it's videotaped for forever.
And I'll read the motion. Moved by Councillor Pastorero, seconded by Councillor Jim Dunbar. Whereas the cost of municipal insurance in the province of Ontario has continued to increase, and whereas large increases going into 2022, and whereas joint and several liability continues to ask property taxpayers to carry the lion's share of a damage award when a municipality is found in minimum fault, and whereas these increases are unsustainable and unfair and eat at critical municipal services, and whereas the Association of the Municipalities of Ontario outlines 7 recommendations to address insurance issues, including that the provincial government adopt a model of full proportionate liability to replace joint and several liability. Number 2, implement enhancements to the existing limitations period, including the continued applicability of the existing 10-day rule on slip and fall cases given recent judicial interpretations, and whether a 1-year limitation period be beneficial. Number 3, implement a cap for economic loss awards. Number 4, increase a catastrophic impairment EFO benefit to $2 million and increase the third-party liability coverage to $2 million in government-regulated automobile insurance plans. Number 5, assess and implement additional measures which would support lower premiums or alternatives to the provision of insurance services by other entities such as nonprofit insurance reciprocals. Number 6, compel the insurance industry to supply all necessary financial evidence, including premiums, claims, deductible limit changes, which support its own and municipal arguments as to the fiscal impact of joint and several liability. Number 7, establish a provincial and municipal working group to consider the above and put forward recommendations to the Attorney General. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation of the Town of Blind River support the City of Barrie on the Province of Ontario to immediately review these recommendations despite COVID-19 delays, as insurance premiums will soon be out of reach for many communities, and that this motion be provided to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Peter Belfally, Minister of Finance, the Honourable Doug Downey, Attorney General of Ontario, and MPP for Algoma Manitoulin and City of Barrie, and the City of Barrie, sorry. A long motion. Discussion. Councillor Pastorero, followed by Councillor Jim Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Something definitely needs to be done when it comes to insurance and joint and liability, because many of our residents, when they're asking about why we can't do certain things, or why do we have to erect fences, or why do we have to stop access to certain roads, right? It's because the insurance premiums are going through the roof because litigation. So yes, something needs to be done. And I'm not saying that valid and litigation with merit shouldn't proceed, but we need to stop the frivolous litigation that's just basically bankrupting municipalities because we can't afford insurance. So I definitely support this motion.
Thank you for that. And I do apologize to Councillor Jim Dunbar. I see that your name was on the original. The form was blank. I miss you folks at the council meetings when you filled out your own forms, trying to keep up with it all and listening to your comments. It's an excuse, and it's not a very good one. Anyway, I do thank you for that. All in favor of this motion? Thank you. That is carried. So moving on to 13.2, we had a request from Fallon Delpha Association of Canada re the 30th anniversary of the DAFA Day request. I'm going to read the motion first, and then I'll open it up to council for discussion. Whereas 2022 marks the 30th anniversary of the Fallon DAFA Day, and whereas council has great respect for the principles of truth, benevolence, and forbearance which the guide the FALFA data movement, therefore be it resolved, the council proclaim May 13th, 2022 as Fallon DAFA Day in Blind River. Discussion? Councillor Pastorero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had actually requested that my name not be put on this motion, but as seconder, I guess I get a chance to speak. Although I respect the right under the charter for freedom of religion and freedom to not have a religion, I will not be in support of this motion, and I will request a recorded vote. I think although the motion sounds ideal, that more research needs to be done into all these different organizations, and this is not something I support.
And I thank you for your comment. There are a number of emails that do cross my desk, and rather than making the decision myself, I like to have council's input on them. So duly respected. And Councillor Wells, you had something to add?
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. I concur with Councillor Pastorero. Since I saw my name as the mover of this motion, I did do some research, and I do believe in the principles of truth, benevolence, and forbearance. And I appreciate that this particular spiritual group has been severely ostracized in mainland China and endured suffering and torture and that sort of thing. I am aware that some of the principles of this group do not necessarily dovetail with the principles endorsed by the town of Blind River, including the rights of our LGBTQ2S citizens.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other comments before we go for a recorded vote? Seeing none, Ms. Scott, would you call the names of council, please?
Deputy Mayor Summers,
Not in favor.
Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar,
Not in favor.
Councillor Jim Dunbar,
I'm not in favor.
Councillor Stephen Wells,
I'm opposed.
Councillor Pastorero,
Opposed.
Mayor Hagman,
Opposed.
and that's defeated.
Thanks, everyone. And as I say, I will continue to bring letters forward for council's discussion. And we always have the final word, and that's one of the wonderful things that we have about our democracy. For correspondence, the North Shore Power Group Board of Directors agenda was provided for council's review, and there will be another meeting taking place this month. Are there any questions from council? From Algoma Public Health, the board meetings of March 9th, as well as the board meetings of February 23rd, and the agenda of March 23rd brought forward. I know that I have not, as your representative, given all of the boards. Sometimes when you have a board package and it is in a board effect like eScribe, it's hard to forward. So I did ask specifically that from this point on, I hope to be giving Algoma Public Health public meeting minutes to you. So watch for those. I had no notices of motions, so introduction and consideration of the bylaws is where we are right now. And Councillor B. Dunbar and Deputy Mayor Summers are the movers and the seconders on this one. And I will read the motion. Be it resolved that council authorize the mayor and CAO clerk to sign bylaw 22-27, being a bylaw of the corporation of the town of Blind River, to appoint municipal weed inspector was passed in open council this 4th day of April 2022. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. And moving into 19, we had no addendums to this meeting, so we are moving in to the motion on the closed meeting. I have a motion from Councillor Stephen Wells, moved by Councillor Jim Dunbar, seconded by Councillor Stephen Wells. Be it resolved that council move into the closed portion of the meeting at 7:52 in accordance with Section 239 of the Municipal Act in order to address matters pertaining to personnel. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thanks, everyone. And to the public, I thank you. We'll see you on the other side of the closed meeting. Welcome back, everyone. And I have a motion from Councillor Jim Dunbar, seconded by Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar. Be it resolved that council resume the open meeting at 8:42 p.m. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And when we were in closed, we discussed personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, in other words, personnel. I have a motion from Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Pastorero, Be it resolved that council authorize the mayor and CAO clerk to sign bylaw 22-28, being a bylaw of the corporation of the town of Blind River, to adopt the minutes of the meeting of April 4th, was passed in open council this 4th day of April, 2022. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. And last but not least, I have a motion from Deputy Mayor Summers, seconded by Councillor Jim Dunbar. Be it resolved that council adjourn at 8:43 p.m. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye.